Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
What a day, Sam. What a day.
What a
In the
day.
past 24 hours, we got trailers for a bunch of Star Trek stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a new trailer for The Matrix.
Yep.
Resurrections.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really excited for it until I saw this trailer. I'm like, okay. I'm in. I don't know. What do you think? You in? Are you down? Are you taking that red pill?
Oh yeah, I'm taking the red pill. I'm down. I'm in. Yeah. I wasn't sure about it all. But yeah, I will say that having one of the Wachowskis back is a much better option than the guy who was originally going to do it, Zach Penn, who wrote both Ready Player One, the movie, and Free Guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'll
glad
pass.
we dodged that bullet. God, we're both nerds.
What else? What have you been watching?
Not much. I saw Shang-Chi over the weekend.
Oh yeah. Everyone's saying it's one of the top Marvel movies.
It's up there. It's easily in the top 5, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, right now there's a big the debate on Twitter is what was the real birth of the MCU? X-Men, Spider-Man, and a lot of people are clapping back with Blade.
Oh, it's Blade. 100%.
It's got to be, right? Because Kevin Feige worked on that movie. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin Feige worked on all of or at least a good majority of the Fox movies, but he was like executive producer or something like that. Yeah. So it's like it was a smaller role because they had their own guy who was doing like Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and X-Men. But yeah, so he was in there within some kind of capacity. But yeah, dude, it has to be Blade because that was the first. I feel like that was the first time maybe since, well, let's see. Probably since like the Keaton Batman movies where studios were like, hey, we can do this seriously. You know, like we're gonna do this. Like, so they take Blade and they adapt it, you know, for like a modern audience. And, you know, it's like, hey, this is based off of a comic book. It's a rated R movie, you know, and they're doing all this stuff like, and Wesley Snipes, he's got all the poses down. He's got all the cool lines that some of them I know that he ad-libbed on the day. And they were just like, yeah, we're going to keep that in the movie. Let's go. So yeah, like it's a combination of all those things. And it's like, and it got popular. It got popular enough to get a sequel. And I feel like that was sort of the impetus for studios to be like, what other things do we have? Like what other sort of things can we do? Because at that point in the 90s, Marvel had declared bankruptcy. So they were like, they were selling rights to their characters left and right. And I think out of the success of Blade, that's where we start getting the idea like, hey, let's try and make this other thing. Let's try and do, I mean, James Cameron was attached to do Spider-Man for a long time. He even wrote a script. Like they have, you know, like production art and stuff that, you know, like it was going to go into production and all that. So, you know, it got pretty high up there. And like, I think that's James Cameron, like coming off of Titanic.
Oh, wow.
Is going to do Spider-Man. Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, like that's a pretty big deal in itself, you know? So yeah, what kicks it off is Blade. I think what solidified it was X-Men. When X-Men landed, that was where it was like, oh, like mainstream audiences really dug X-Men. But you don't have that without Blade. So
yeah. Also because X-Men was PG-13.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
people were willing to take their kids to that.
Yeah.
It was like the next natural step.
Yeah. And at the time it was I want to say the animated series was still on. So, you know, like if you didn't know X-Men from the comics, you knew X-Men from the animated series.
Hmm.
And because that was a big
Interesting.
reason why, yeah, like why we went to go see it. At least like me, like I was like, oh, like
Mhm.
X-Men, like they're getting a movie. So, but I knew them from, I wasn't reading comics at that time. I was watching the shows.
Mhm. Now I don't know which one because like the OG '90s X-Men show was over by the time the movie came out.
I mean, the movie came out in '99.
Yeah, like X-Men was way over by then.
I mean, but dude, they were still doing reruns.
Oh well, yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
But I was just trying to because I'm thinking like the next one was X-Men Evolution, the next cartoon. When was that?
that was early 2000s, and it was kind of the same. It was kind
Oh,
of
it's 2000. Yeah,
oh, okay,
November
yeah.
2000. So that first movie came out in between like those two cartoon shows.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like I feel
Hmm.
like they were already amping up to do a new X-Men cartoon,
Hmm.
and then like the movie comes out and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get major pull, do all that
Hmm.
stuff. And that's also around the same time when the Ultimate line of Marvel Comics was kicking up.
Yeah, that aimed up perfectly.
Yeah.
The
Because it was
Ultimate
like
X-Men and those X-Men movies.
Ultimate X-Men and the X-Men movies. And then what solidified the Ultimate line was Ultimate Spider-Man releasing kind of around the same time as the Spider-Man movie.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's all that.
Because I'm trying to think like when, okay, because we would watch Spider-Man, we would watch X-Men, the cartoons. At what point were those on at the same time as like Batman the animated series?
Yeah.
They were, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, it's so interesting, like how different their legacies have been.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And then even Superman came a little bit later, a few
Mm-hmm.
years later. Wow. Yeah, man. That's wild. History of Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. The only thing I've been watching, I finished the first season of Star Trek Lower Decks,
Oh,
also
nice.
a cartoon.
Very
Um,
nice.
I like it. It's really fun. It's got some heart. I don't know how good of a show it is for someone who hasn't watched Star Trek. And I'm kind of okay with that.
I think that's the thing, man. Like it's
It's made for Star Trek fans.
yeah, it's Star Trek made for Star Trek fans. And
Mhm.
it's like it because it pulls some really deep cuts, some like really deep lore and jokes that you're like,
Even
you
like
know, you have to be
Paramount Plus, they release videos after each episode about all the Easter eggs, and it's
yeah.
like every scene, almost every line, almost every shot, there's Star Trek Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't get all of them, because a lot of them I miss, and I go watch those videos, I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I see now. But it's just so the humor and the story, it's so ingrained in like the Star Trek mythos, and like in a lot of ways, this is a bit controversial, I know. In a lot of ways, it feels more Star Trek than the current live action series.
Ooh, that's a hot take. Okay.
Because I mean, look, I love those shows. I haven't seen all of them, of course, but we've discussed how Picard, it's darker, and it reflects our world more. And Star Trek has always reflect the politics. Let's get that out there, listeners. Star
Oh
Trek has
yeah.
always been about politics,
Mm-hmm.
and it will always be about politics. And that's fine, but I don't know. They're focusing more on like the real world right now, all the darkness in our lives, and they're putting that into the science fiction show. But when you get back to Lower Decks, it's like, yes, this is what I miss about Star Trek: the exploration, the fun, while
Mm-hmm.
still throwing in the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying the show. I have high hopes for Strange New Worlds, which is supposedly going to be more like classic Trek, like the original, and then the ones through the '90s. Like
Mm-hmm.
individual episodes. There will be, I think they said there will be a season arc, but it's going to be like individual adventures, all different stories.
That's really cool.
Like
I'm
that's
down
what
with
I
that.
miss. That's what I miss so much.
Yeah.
The variety.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So what's this show about? Oh, Lost.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Lost.
right. Yeah.
That's right.
Uh, I actually had a really good time this week. And this week we're talking about season 2, episode 16, The Whole Truth. While Jack and Locke are fighting again, Annie Lucia, Saeed, and Charlie try to find Henry Gale's balloon. Oh, yeah. And it turns out that Sun is freaking pregnant. Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
You text me, you're like, this was a great episode. I agree. Once again, a Sun episode. All her episodes are like the best ones of the season.
I'll say I'll throw this out there right now. I do think of the Sun and Jin episodes, I do think this is like maybe the weaker one. It's probably the
Yeah.
weakest one so far.
Mhm.
But one, and this is kind of the thing that I knew we were going to get to. It's like, how much story can we fill? How much backstory can we
Right.
fill, you know, with these people? Because like at a certain point, it all has to catch up. And we already got caught up with a lot of these people in last season's finale. You know, it's like, hey, this is the thing. We were doing this right before we got on the plane. You know, we were doing this. Like Jack, we've done that like twice. You know, so it's kind of like, I feel like at some point the storytelling has to change.
Yeah.
The different, and I know, there are spoilers that I won't mention here, but like I know that the storytelling does kind of change,
Right.
and I'm fascinated by that. But at least from this perspective right now, like it does feel a little grating where it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this particular incident, you know, and all that, and it's kind of you know, like it does kind of get to me. That being said, anytime the focus is on Sun, it's like I'm watching a completely different show, and it's fantastic. It's like, oh yeah, I keep forgetting. I'm like, oh yeah, there's there's Kate. You're like, oh, Jack's showing up, you know, to give his quote unquote doctorly advice, and I'm like, yeah, all right. I just want to get back to the Sun. Give me more Sun.
Yeah.
You know, like that. That's where I'm at right now.
I think it's also it's clever, but also a great way to hide your mistakes. The way the flashbacks aren't chronological. So
Yeah,
you know, season 1, we got a lot of flashbacks that were like way in the past of our characters. And then by the end of the first season, we got a flashback that was much more recent. And it kind of connected the dots. And then season 2 starts, and it's like, we're just going to start throwing in flashbacks in between those points and all this stuff. And it feels odd too, because season 1, we start, we have a Sun flashback, and then towards the end, we have a Jin flashback. Season 2, we have the flashbacks, and that really works for Sun and Jin to see their stories parallel. Well, this time it's Sun again. Although Jin is there, it's her episode. So it's kind of weird, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it kind of reflects Jin's story on Island. You know, he's kind of reverting to his past ways a little bit. But I'm glad, like, we kind of went through that in just one episode.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, that's over.
I was really nervous we were gonna do like this is gonna be a couple episode issue, you know?
Yeah,
but nope.
So, but it definitely poses some questions. And I think this episode works well because we're waiting to see what happens next. And that's not necessarily happens with every flashback. Even someone's good like Saeed or Locke, we're like, yeah, of course we want to know more of their story. We still, I feel like Locke has a lot of holes in his backstory that we haven't filled yet.
Oh yeah.
But this episode, it's like the way it kind of ended, it's like, okay, now what happens? Nothing was really resolved in Sun's flashbacks. Like the resolution happened on Island, sort of. But that starts like its own thing. I'm like, okay. And a big part of it is her friend came back.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And he drops, you know, he ran off to America for a woman and it didn't work. And he's tutoring Sun in English.
Mhm.
and a lot of will they, won't they, sexual tension. And by the end of this episode, we see her growing apart from Jin further and further, and he's really trying to have a baby, and then he's pissed when he finds out she can have a baby.
Mhm.
And then the big twist is that no, it's actually Jin's the one who can't have the baby.
Mhm.
Uh, and it kind of leaves it very open ended between her and her friend. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
You
I guess
guess
it does do
so?
that.
They were straight up flirting. They were eye humping.
I mean, look, here's the thing. They already had that chemistry together, you know? So when they first showed up,
Yeah.
like when he first showed up, I was like, oh, son, she's cheating on Jin. She's having an affair. But then
Yeah, I thought that too.
he's just teaching her English. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that makes sense then. Like he's been to America, like he does all like, okay, yeah, like they already get on great. Like, okay, I get
Yeah.
it. Um, so yeah, and then their final scene is where she doesn't know what she wants, like she doesn't know what to do, and he's asking her that, and he's like, if you tell Jin that you're learning English, like I'm sure he'll be proud of you, he'll be supportive of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of it. So it's like, for me,
Well,
after that initial point, it was never a question for me of like, oh, they're cheating on, they're having an affair. It's like, no, after that, it was like, no, like he's just concerned now.
but he straight up has that line. Like, what was it, his last line? I forgot what it was, but something
Oh,
about like
it's like what are we doing here?
he's like, I'm not telling you to stay for me.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. It's something very like on the nose like that. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, but in that means that, like up to that point they haven't done anything. So
right,
like
right.
the flashback ends, and so it's like, I guess you could draw your own conclusions, but I'm gonna trust Sun when she straight up tells Jin, I haven't been with any other person,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like, look, Sun may have hidden the fact that she was learning English and that she was gonna leave him,
Mm-hmm.
and that she learned English, like, to the whole island. She may have lied about all those things. That's fact.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Sun would hide an affair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, because I think for both of them that would be the breaking point. That would be the point where it's like, world shattered, that's it. We like, everything's destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she's still there, and the fact that she stayed with Jin at
Mm-hmm.
the airport and got on the flight with him, like, I think all of that just points to like, no, she didn't cheat. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't have an affair with that guy. So that means that baby is 100% Jin's. And that is yet another friggin' miracle that the island is performing that nobody's freaking noticing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Jin noticed it. He said, like, it's a miracle.
He's like, it's
But
a miracle.
they don't know the fact about Locke. They don't know
Mm-hmm.
about Walt and his weird premonition thing. Like, they don't know
Yeah.
any of that. So, but we do as the audience, and we're like, it's a miracle, but is it really a miracle, or is it, I don't know, what's the opposite of what's like the bad version of a miracle?
That's a good point. I don't know.
A demacle.
Well, technically, I think it would
I don't
still
know.
be a miracle
I guess so. Yeah.
because it's just the impossible,
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
just the
want
way
to,
you say it. It's like, it's a miracle.
yeah.
It's
If you want to get into some like Dungeons and Dragons lore,
Ooh, yes, please.
one of the big things in Critical Role season 1, this demi lich Vecna is trying to become a god.
Mm.
Well, he gets all these powers and he essentially does succeed, but it's not really sealed. To seal the deal, you need to perform some sort of miracle.
Ooh.
So for an evil creature like that, it's like destroying the most holy religious like place on the planet. Something that's like, it's kind of like killing a unicorn. Like you have to do something just so bad and disturbing and what was deemed impossible, and that would count.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you're someone who more leans to the good side,
Mhm.
I don't know, save a unicorn. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something is equal but more good, less evil.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it would still be called a miracle.
Okay.
It's just
That's interesting. Yeah.
it's just the way we use it in real world. It's usually something impossible happens that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like
Okay.
shit. I was struck by lightning twice. Well, that's
It's
a miracle. It's a miracle you survived. So
yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
but that scene ends with Sun Jin's going back to the camp and she says, I love you. And she even catches herself as she says it. And I was like,
and then he gets down on his knees and he says it in English.
Oh,
Like,
dude.
oh,
That was so
man.
good.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Daniel Day Kim did fantastic as Jin.
Fantastic.
He's one of the scientists in Spider-Man 2 working with Doc Ock.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I just walked in and Dad was watching the clip, Alfred Molina and everything's going crazy. And then there's Daniel Day Kim. I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's come
Good
a
for
long way.
him.
He's come a long, long way.
Yeah,
So,
good for him.
Yeah, man. I love you. So, someone once told me by mistake that she loves me. Yeah, it was in college. We were just talking. It just brought it up because the way Sun caught herself. Like I forgot, like we were in the hallway and it was already like after classes and like she had to go to like rehearsal or something. I was leaving. It was just quick little conversation. And I was like, all right, see you later. And she's like, I love you. And we both kind of stopped and looked at each other. And she was just like so like eyes wide open. I mean, I'll see you later. And she took off and I was like, whoa. So that's what it feels like.
Oh my God. I
just thought it was funny.
This story.
Well, I mean, it was nothing, dude. It just kind of it just reminded me, Sun catching herself. It just reminded me of that. I was like, oh man.
It was nothing, Matt. This is gonna be one of those pivotal moments, and when you get stranded on an island that you remember that you flash back to, it's gonna come into play somehow. I don't know how, but it's gonna come into play.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna realize Sam was right. This is a miracle.
So what else happened? I felt like, there's a lot of stuff. Oh man, Locke. I love the mind games between like Locke and Jack and their awkward like locker room talk chat they have.
Oh God, yeah.
But I do like that Locke gets Ana Lucia in talking with Henry, but Ana Lucia already knows what's up. She knows like she needs to get control away from Jack and Locke. So she convinces Henry to draw a map to his balloon, but she gives it to Saeed. So Saeed, her, and Charlie go off trekking into the jungle looking for this balloon. And we don't really get resolution for that in this episode. We just know like they find the place and they can't find the balloon.
Yeah.
But she's the one who spots that Charlie has a gun. By the way, Charlie was an asshole this episode.
And I loved it.
You could tell Dominic Monaghan was having fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like he's kind of stopped caring at this point about everyone and everything. And at the same time, he's talking with, the woman who murdered Shannon. So I get it. But I love Charlie in this episode. I'm like, you see, when you're actually trying to be an asshole, you're quite likable.
which is very odd.
But when you're trying to be the good guy and do the right thing, you suck.
And then we're talking about Charlie. The character. Yes.
Charlie. Yeah. I just thought that was crazy. That was fun. But and then she has her talk with Saeed at night, and I thought that was really good. Where she essentially apologizes for killing Shannon, and she doesn't know why Saeed doesn't hate her more. And that was a good scene. Kudos to Michelle Rodriguez. And special kudos to Naveen Andrews, because like he brings it as Saeed and he tells her, like he has like that silent fury. You can tell like he's just ready to crack. He's
Mhm.
like, you were just doing protect your people. It was an accident. It was them. It was the others who killed Shannon.
Mhm.
We don't find when he says when we don't find this balloon, something's gonna have to be done with Henry. I was like,
Mm.
oh, dude.
Damn.
Oh,
Damn.
mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Hell
Ugh.
hath no fury.
Like Naveen
Like Naveen
Andrews.
Andrews, I'm like a widow.
Widower.
Widower. Um, yeah, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun. We got more Rose and Bernard.
Yeah. Who
And
are
they're
arguing?
just bickering it with each other the whole time. Like, I
Yeah.
love it. They're so happy to be back together and they're just fighting the whole time.
I know. Oh, it's so
Uh,
great.
but there's a lot of fun stuff, a lot of people on the island are finding out the son is pregnant
Mhm.
before Jin does.
Yeah.
Um, but I did like that, like, because he was a jerk and he destroyed her garden. And at the end, he was trying to fix it. And, he just opens up and he says, how much he needs her. He's just kind of lost without her. And he's basically alone. Without her, he's alone. He can't even communicate with
Mhm.
others. So it was a nice scene. It was quite interesting because, like, even with that scene, like, Sun deserves better than how he's treating her.
Mhm.
But at the same time, she's feeling very guilty for like her secret and all this stuff. Because that's the scene when she reveals that Jin was the one who couldn't have the baby. Um, it was just all in all good feels all around, except for in the hatch.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really liked it. It's cool how an episode like this, which doesn't really seem as connected to the overall plot like last week's, like Claire's episode,
Mhm.
but it's still, the pace is still up, man. It's still going, and like it never skips a beat. We're
Yeah.
we're there the whole time because we care about these characters, and this is an example of Lost and its crazy storytelling ways works. It works out. Even if this was the Sun and Jin's like weakest episode, flashback episode, it was still good, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I did think it's weird. Once again, Hurley gets caught eating food in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah.
I I loved Sun and Kate are talking about the pregnancy and all this stuff, and and I forgot what it was, but there was like a smash cut. She's like, "You're gonna have to. Oh, you're not gonna tell Jin. Blah blah blah. I don't know." It's like we have to talk to someone. Well, like cuts to Jack, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Okay, of course the doctor's checking it out. Oh, it's the pregnancy test. Like, how accurate is this? Well, I don't know." And it cuts to Jack. These are pretty accurate. And I love how he gives his advice, and it was done in a very humble way. He's like, "This is my advice, and that's all it is, because I'm the last person to talk to about things like this." But hang on, I gotta get my Jack voice. You just need to tell the truth, son. The truth is always the right thing to do. Always. You have to tell Jin.
It's pretty good. It was really good.
And then
Same.
Kate's like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a couple of days. What's going on in the hatch?"
No, is everything okay in the hatch?
Artistic interpretation.
Yeah, yeah, but
Is
it's
everything
important.
okay? Is everything okay in the hatch? Yeah, everything's fine, Kate. Nothing to worry about. Bye. I just love that. He's like, just tell the truth. Just he's the one that the episode is named for. The whole truth.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to tell the whole truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he immediately switches. Yeah, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. See ya.
Yeah,
I laughed. I was like, oh my God, Jack.
I did too. I was like, oh,
Oh,
jeez.
yeah. I'm just kind of just like, there's really not much more to talk about. We talked about important stuff. We're just talking about like the greatest hits now.
Mm-hmm.
I did see my notes, and this did happen several times. I was just so captivated by Yunjin Kim and uh I don't know who the other actor was, but the one who plays her friend,
Oh yeah.
Sam. There are just whole scenes where like I was just watching, I'm just like, wow. And I was like, oh, I'm not even reading the subtitles. I had to rewind. I was just so captivated. Like they have great chemistry. All the acting's there. Oh, and I guess even with Sun Jin and the doctor, like you don't need to read the subtitles to understand what's happening because several scenes, like I had to go back. I was like, oh, I did not pay attention at all, or I was just too much,
Just to the action, not to the
because it was all there in
yeah.
their face and their facial expressions, and that's God. I wish I remember my professor's name, but my first day of film school, that's what I learned. If you can't watch a movie on mute and understand what's happening, it's not a good movie. And I really felt that with this episode. Like I knew exactly what was happening just by the performances. And then I went back and rewatched the Korean scenes. I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
I guess all's well and good except for that end scene, man. Jack lets Henry out so he can eat his cereal. And he's just talking about like, oh, one, he finds out Jack and Locke know nothing about the map that Anna Lucia took. And he even plays with that. He's like, oh, maybe she took it because y'all are always fighting so much. But he kind of gives that, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
But then he starts talking about, he's like, if I was one of these others, I would draw a map to a secluded place where my people would be waiting, spring a trap, and then they would use your friends as what like bargaining chips to get me back. Chip.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I guess I'm not one of them, huh?
It's a good thing I'm not one of them.
It's a good thing I'm not one of them, huh? Jeez, man, Mr. Playwright over here. Look, I feel like I'm auditioning.
Look, if you're not getting all of the lines right, then you're missing the context. Jeez. It's a good thing I'm not one of them. Like it's a good thing I'm not. Get it right.
Anyway, right. He just shrugs and he's like, got any milk? I'm sorry, Sam. Did he say, do you have any milk? Yeah, he's just being, this guy. He's not a bad guy. He's just an asshole. Because he's even saying, what's that computer do? What's this do? Man, y'all don't know anything. I'd be asking all these questions. And she's like, what the God, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, if he like, even if
kill you just for fun, man.
Yeah, even if he doesn't end up being an other, I'm just gonna I'm gonna drown you in milk, okay?
Yeah, take your damn milk.
Yeah, it's like there you go.
Take your 2%
asshole. You don't remember how many shovelfuls of dirt it took to bury your wife? I think you would know if she meant anything to you. So she probably meant nothing. And you're just using her as a sob story. By this point, he's already dead, and I'm just monologuing. But
yeah. Well,
yeah.
So I guess MVPs this week.
Yeah, Young Jin Kim.
Damn it! I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, obviously,
of course. But now I don't know who to do.
You had days. You had a couple of days to think this over.
I know.
This is on you. I come prepared.
I think I'm gonna give it to Daniel Day Kim.
All right, there we go. I mean, the two heavy hitters of the episode. Let's do it. Yeah.
Well, but he wasn't really a heavy hitter though. Like he was
but in like the smaller ways. You know?
Yeah. Like his whole purpose in this episode was to serve Sun's arc, even though it is, although furthering his character arc, he's really there for Sun's story. But he did good. He did great in the scenes. So yep, big surprise there on those two. But we gotta. However, next time, Samuel, we're talking about season 2, episode 17, Lockdown. While Anna Lucia, Saeed, and Charlie continue to search for Henry's balloon, Locke faces a new mysterious challenge in the hatch.
I like it.
Cool. Oh, crap. We forgot predictions. What are your predictions?
Oh.
That Locke is going to find a new mysterious challenge in the hatch.
Yeah. On the astral plane.
Oh, whoa. Yeah. So what are you thinking? This wasn't really an episode that felt like it had a lot of big lost mythos kind of lore changing progress, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside
Other
of
than the fact
the
of
miracle.
son having a miracle baby,
Yeah.
we'll call him Whip. Because he's a miracle.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm just saying, the
I
more you
predict
talk, the less I have space for puns. So
I predict that next week will be my final episode.
I'll keep me Matt from here on out.
I'll keep watching Lost, but I will refuse to talk about it with my brother. I might start my own podcast. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's probably gonna be, Locke and Henry, doing the mind game battle. And pretty sure that the trio are gonna run into a couple of others out there.
Oh, interesting.
Run into a trap. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking, like it's probably we're probably gonna get a solid answer on whether or not Henry is another.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, until then, everyone, we love you. We miss you. You can follow us at hashtag Lost Legacies. Hit us up. You can find me on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez or on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Real, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
And in the words of Son,
I love you.
And get lost.